Well, greetings and welcome back to the webinar series. I'm Gary Furlong. With me is Josh Gordon. We are teachers, trainers, experts in strategic negotiation. We work with a lot of clients in North America and beyond, and we're the co-authors of Strategic Negotiation, Building Organizational Excellence.
Yeah, and today we are going to explore how organizations can move from having repeatable and successful negotiation processes to incorporating some flexibility and adaptability, which really is about taking it to the next level and enhancing negotiation outcomes even further from where you were when you got out of ad hocery, made it to repeatable, and now we're trying to get to adaptive flexibility.
Yeah, absolutely. So once an organization establishes frameworks that really produce repeatable success, skilled negotiators can then go beyond those basic repeatable processes and adapt to each unique situation effectively.
And a really key point here, as we've talked about a lot, Gary, it's important to understand that this is not a regression back to ad hocery. So from the outside looking in, it can look like that, but it's very different version of variety here. And so with a strong foundation of good practices, negotiators can flexibly adapt to the unique aspects of each negotiation, taking performance to the next level. And so that variety here is with purpose, information, data, and strategy behind it, not variety of the individual.
Yeah. So consider that global consulting firm we've talked about before that initially developed consistent terms and approaches for securing client contracts. And this approach ensured consistent terms, minimized risks, made sure that there was a good foundation. However, as their negotiators gain experience, they begin tailoring their pitches, tailoring their approach to the specific client needs, to the specific market conditions they're experiencing, and thereby increasing satisfaction both for the organization as well as the client companies that they're closing deals with.
Yeah, part of what drives this desire and need for moving to adaptive flexibility is you get into this repeatable framework, and that works really well. It's a huge improvement from ad hocery. But then you start to feel that this one size fits all repeatable approach isn't working as much for some of the variety that's being thrown your way. And we've learned a lot from this continuous improvement that we put into our repeatable process. So taking that learning, taking those reflections that you do, and now we're going to do something with it by creating different tailored processes. So in some ways, you're still repeatable, but you're repeatable within different tailored sub-processes within that.
Yeah. So back to that cooking example I used before. Once you can create repeatable, tasty dishes that the family likes, you can start tailoring it to the tastes of the family or the individuals within the family. You can make it a little bit spicier. You can change the flavor toward less garlic, more of this, and really make it fit what this particular family likes. We adapt the recipe. And then if, for example, friends come over that don't eat spicy food, you can adapt it back the other way and still each time present a pretty good meal because of that adaptation.
Yeah, I think building off of that cooking example, this is really where art and engineering start to collide in negotiation in a really fun way, because you are taking a lot of that information from the science behind of what we're talking, but we're also putting a little flair from our learning and taking a little of that creative into it as well. And to your point, my daughter would always say, put more hot sauce on. I agree, but we need to make sure that that's right for that context at that moment. From putting hot sauce on a blueberry muffin, it's probably not going to taste very good. And so here, same thing, we're really trying to figure out, building off of that clear, repeatable, and measured approach to creating that adaptive, specific to the negotiation context at hand.
Yeah, good. So let's go into some real world examples of moving from repeatable competence to adaptive flexibility. Consider a pharmaceutical company that has a repeatable process for negotiating research partnerships. They initially follow a standardized approach. They ensure all legal and regulatory requirements are met. However, as they work with different research institutions, they adapt their negotiating tactics to address the unique strengths and needs of each partner. And that flexibility helps them secure more innovative and mutually beneficial partnerships than if they just stuck to a very standardized approach.
Great, and continuing with this path of trying to create some illustrations here. let's think about a tech industry supplier negotiation. Here in the tech industry, company might develop, again, a standardized approach to negotiating supplier contracts to ensure consistency and quality and pricing. That's great. But once that process is established, you really want to begin to adapt negotiations to address specific market conditions, such as shortages of critical components or introduction of new technologies. Similarly, with other partners, they may have a variety of reasons why your repeatable approach is less effective with one particular partner than it is with another. And trying to have adaptation based on your learning is going to be really important here.
Yeah. So let's look at a nonprofit organization, something at the other end of the spectrum. And let's say they start with a repeatable framework for negotiating donations, ensuring a consistent message and approach so that donors kind of know what they're getting and they understand the process. But as they gain experience, they can begin to tailor their asks that are based on the interests of individual donors, and individual motivations of those donors may be quite different. Some donors want, for example, their name placed on something to acknowledge the donation. There are some donors who want complete anonymity and are simply donating because they like the cause. And each of those there should be flexibility in there to understand and adapt to that. And by adapting that approach, they're able to secure larger and more frequent donations.
Yeah, great example. We could do the same when we shift into more of a sales environment. And what you could imagine in that context is you start to, with your learning, figure out that maybe there's really 4 or 5 very distinct approaches based on different customer types or different personas that are coming into your sales pipeline. And to have a purely repeatable process may have you underperform on some of those tracks. And so having that adaptive flexibility where you have a defined process, and that means you've got pretty good triaging up front in your negotiation, know which process you're going to engage when and why.
Yeah, so great examples, Josh. So just to recap, achieving adaptable flexibility within a structured framework is a higher level of negotiating capability. It shows an organization that can respond effectively to unique challenges and opportunities.
Yeah, I think one final point to hammer home here is that it's nearly impossible to go from ad hoc to adaptive if you haven't gone through repeatable. And that would be a word of caution here, is you want to have that time and that lesson of consistency to then be able to do that adaptive. And really a lot of it is to assess whether these adaptations are working too as we go.
Yeah. So for more insights, for a little bit more depth on what we're talking about here, we invite you to take a read of the book, Strategic Negotiation, Building Organizational Excellence.
And thank you again for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you in our next session. We'll continue to put out these webinars on topics of interest. Please do follow us on LinkedIn, both our personal LinkedIn and the book's LinkedIn. We share regular content there to try and improve your capabilities and skills and to make you a better strategic negotiator.
Yeah, thanks.